You open your budgeting app, you stare at your take home pay, you do the math and the math some personal finance blogger told you to do, and you realize that 50% of your income for needs would be $1,040 a month. Your rent alone is $1,150. That's it. That's the whole problem. The 50/30/20 rule is not a budget for you. It's a budget for someone who earns enough that 50% of their income actually covers their fixed costs. If you take home $2,500 a month, and a massive chunk of working Americans do, that rule was never built for your life. It was built for a version of America that stopped existing a long time ago. Here's where it gets mean. Nobody tells you that. They just hand you the rule, tell you to track your spending, and imply that if you're struggling, you must be buying too many coffees, that you're undisciplined, that you need to cut the streaming subscriptions. Meanwhile, your rent, insurance, utilities, and car payment eat 68% of your income before you buy a single grocery. The math doesn't fail you because you're irresponsible. The math fails you because it was never designed for your income level. Full stop. The 50/30/20 framework assumes your fixed costs are compressible enough to land under that 50% ceiling. For a median earner in the mid 2000s, that was roughly true. In 2026, for the bottom 40% of wage earners, it is not even close. Let's make this specific. Say you earn $18 an hour. Full time, that's roughly $37,400 gross. After federal taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, you're taking home around $2,580 a month. The rule says your needs bucket is $1,290. Go find a one-bedroom apartment in any mid-sized American city for under $1,290 in 2026. Jacksonville, Columbus, Tucson. Go look. The national median for a one-bedroom is above $1,400. In most cities with actual job markets, you're at $1,600 or more. That's before electricity, before renter's insurance, before the car payment you need because your city doesn't have functional public transit, before the health insurance premium that still leaves you paying $180 a month after your employer's share. Add it up honestly. Rent, $1,420. Utilities, $130. Car payment and insurance, $410. Health insurance, $180. Groceries, $300. That's $2,440. Out of $2,580 take home, you have $140 left. No wants category, no savings category, just $140 and a rule that has nothing useful to say to you. This is not a budgeting failure. It's an income to cost structure mismatch. When your fixed survival costs consume almost everything you earn, percentages are useless. You don't need a pie chart. You need a different framework entirely. And this is where the real trap kicks in. Most people in this position aren't just broke, they're stuck in a negative margin spiral. Every month, fixed obligations eat the paycheck down to almost nothing. No slack left. Then something happens. A $300 car repair, a medical copay, a week of reduced hours, and there's no cushion to absorb it. So it goes on a credit card. Here's how the spiral compounds over time. Start with $140 of monthly margin. One car repair at 24% APR adds roughly $9 a month in minimum payments. A medical bill goes to a payment plan, another $50 a month. A utility deposit at a new apartment charged to the card, another $8 a month. After 18 months, that $140 of breathing room is completely gone. You have more debt than you started with. You're working the same hours. You haven't made a single frivolous purchase. And every budgeting article on the internet is still telling you to cut your subscriptions. The 50/30/20 rule was designed for optimization, for people who have a surplus and need to allocate it better. It cannot function as a survival tool when baseline costs consume the entire paycheck. Trying to use it in that situation doesn't just fail, it makes you feel like the failure, and that shame is the most expensive thing on your budget. What actually works, what I want to show you in the second half of this video, is something I call the gap method. It throws out the percentages entirely. It starts from one brutal, honest question. What is the absolute minimum you need each month to keep your housing, your transportation, and your ability to work? That number is your floor. The distance between that floor and your income is your gap. And widening that gap, not hitting some percentage target, is the only goal that matters when you're this close to the edge. Before I show you exactly how the gap method works, I want to ask you something. Right now, if you subtract all your fixed monthly bills from your take home pay, what's left? If that number is under $300, type it in the comments. Not the exact number if you don't want to, just under 300 or negative. Because I want you to see that you are not alone in this, not even close. Here's what most people miss about the negative margin trap. It's not just a math problem, it's a decision architecture problem. When you're under constant financial pressure, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning goes partially offline. Research in behavioral economics has found this consistently. Financial scarcity consumes cognitive bandwidth, the same mental resource you use to plan ahead, resist impulse, and think about tomorrow. So the person who most needs to think clearly about money is operating with the least capacity to do so. They forget to call about the overdraft fee that could have been waived. They don't compare insurance rates when renewal comes because they're exhausted. They take the payday loan because the math is complicated and they need cash today. The stress of scarcity makes every financial decision harder to execute, which makes the financial situation worse, which increases the stress. This is why handing someone in survival mode a spreadsheet and telling them to get organized doesn't work. The tool doesn't match the situation. Let's look at two people and see how this plays out. Both are 31. Both earn $2,600 a month take home. Same city, same rent. Meet Darnell and Cassie. Darnell tries to use the 50/30/20 rule because that's what every piece of advice tells him to do. He builds the spreadsheet, sees immediately that his fixed costs blow past 50%, tells himself he'll cut back on wants, but there's no wants category to cut. He feels like he's failing a system he can't actually operate. Over 6 months, he puts $900 in minor emergencies on a credit card at 22% APR. Minimum payments add $28 a month to his obligations. He's not closer to saving, he's further. Cassie uses the gap method. She ignores percentages entirely. She builds her floor budget, not what she wants her finances to look like, but the absolute minimum she needs to keep her life functional. Rent, one utility, phone, basic groceries, gas, minimum debt payments, total $2,310. Her income is $2,600. Her gap is $290. That $290 is the only number she cares about. Her entire strategy is to make it bigger. First month, she calls her car insurance company, asks about moving to a higher deductible. Premium drops $44 a month. Gap is $334. She refinances a small personal loan through her credit union at a lower rate. saves $31 a month. Gap hits $365. She calls her internet provider, drops to a lower tier, saves $22. Gap is $387. No sacrifice, no lifestyle cuts. She just audited every fixed line item and applied downward pressure wherever she could. By month 4, Cassie has a $400 margin. She automates $200 of it into a separate savings account the day after payday. Not for retirement, not for a goal, just to build a buffer so the next disruption doesn't become a dead event. By month 8, she has $1,100 saved. A transmission issue hits, $850. She pays cash, no credit card, no new monthly obligation. The trap doesn't spring. Darnell has $740 in credit card debt by month 8. His monthly cash obligations are $56 higher than when he started. Not because he was reckless, but because he had no buffer and the spiral did what spirals do. At 18 months, Cassie has roughly $2,400 saved, and her margin is intact. Darnell has $1,200 in debt and a cash flow that's measurably worse than when he started. Same income, same city, same starting point. One switched frameworks, one didn't. The biggest obstacle that keeps people from making this switch is shame. People in financial distress often avoid looking at their numbers closely because looking at them feels like confirming their own failure. The budgeting content they consume makes it worse. It's full of people with higher incomes presenting percentage breakdowns like they're universal truths. So the person earning $18 an hour watches, feels inadequate, and either abandons the exercise or applies a framework that was never designed for them. The GAP method removes shame from the architecture. You're not graded against an ideal. You're not measured against someone else's income. You're just tracking one number and trying to make it wider. That's it. You can win at this. Here's how to start right now. Pull up every fixed monthly obligation, every single one, exact numbers, no rounding. Add them up. Subtract from your take home. That number is your current gap. If it's negative, income or housing is the first problem to solve. No budgeting framework fixes a negative gap. If it's positive but under $300, every move you make should be aimed at protecting and widening that gap before anything else. Then go through every fixed line item one by one and ask, can this number be smaller? Car insurance, deductible, subscription tier, phone plan, debt refinance through a credit union. You are not cutting lifestyle. You are auditing fixed costs. There's a difference. Then automate the gap. Whatever margin you have after the floor is paid, move half of it automatically on payday to a separate account, not an investment account, a buffer account, the one account that breaks the spiral before it starts. The 50-30-20 rule is someone else's budget. It was built for someone else's income in someone else's economy. The GAP method is built for where you actually are, and the only direction it takes you is forward. If you're going to try the GAP method this month, even just calculating your floor number for the first time, drop GAP method in the comments. And if you've already been doing something like this without a name for it, share it. Tell people what worked. Because the person watching this right now at 11 p.m., stressed about next month's bills, they need to hear your story more than they need another percentage breakdown. Share this video with them. That's the move.